Before we jump into the episode, I want to tell you about a free 5-day live event that we have coming up the week of May 4th. Everything going on out there, the key right now is expanding your money. And even if you don't feel like you have all the money that you want in order to start expanding it, that's kind of the key. It's living in that gap and getting on that momentum of how can you be in the expression of expanding money? How can you start to line things up? And money loves to be in flow. And so how can you put your money in flow? And you're really meeting a new version of yourself inside of that. And that's a lot of what we talk about here on the podcast. However, a lot of people come to me and say, well, what should I do next? And so what I am going to do is put together kind of a step-by-step for you. It's going to be 5 steps of what you can do now to begin this whole process of living outside of time, investing from a place of intuition, and how do you live on the frequency of money neutrality. So I'm really excited about this. If you're listening to this and you can jump in live for the week of May 4th, I definitely would do that. So go to thespiritualinvestor.com/expanding money. Okay, I'll see you there. Welcome to another episode of The Spiritual Investor. Favorite place to be here. I absolutely love it. And we just had the private event in San Luis Obispo, California, which I loved that as well. But I think it just comes down to, it's such an honor to get to connect with you. And, I've been fortunate enough to be on some really great podcasts as well. And I've gotten to connect with some of you through that. And so if you're here from that, welcome. The goal with this podcast and the intention has never changed since the beginning of it, which was about 5.5 years ago. And it is to, when you come here, these are fairly short and they are designed to be concise and powerful and allow you to move forward based on your takeaway here. And so if over time you are gathering, if you will, a reflection of you, because that's really what wisdom is for us. If you're gathering a reflection of you that you can then take back out into the world and become a self-expression of it, even though you might not be seeing it in the 3D world, you can feel you're becoming an expression of it, then that momentum is what carries you forward. And so what I want to talk to you about today is something that not only do you ask a lot of questions about, but it's something that I think is by far one of the most powerful ways to accelerate you and move you forward. And that is this concept of, how are you not being used up by time? Also, I want to talk to you about the old money paradigm, so that you can see your own self in that, because we learned from the contrast. Contrast stays contrast whenever we don't see ourselves in it, and that means our illusionary self. Once we do that, then suffering is included, and it becomes a whole different story. But contrast in itself, on a clean way, is like wonderful. That's one of the greatest ways. That's sort of like us seeing our clear reflection, and that's one of the greatest ways that you can move forward. And we can't actually see the contrast and be in the contrast until we choose the contrast. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to go into, I'm going to talk a little bit about savings and the market and this concept of expanding money that you can make as one of your shifts and your takeaways, because being an investor that's an identity in itself. And you have sort of qualms about what being an investor means to you and what it requires of you that you don't currently have. That could be time. It could be money. But having you parked on the sidelines, not expanding money, is not something that I'm willing to accept on your behalf anymore. And hopefully you will sort of be a little bit more on board with me by the end of this episode, because what I'm really trying to do out here is hold that bigger version of you until you can be in that too. And hopefully you're surrounding yourselves by many people that do this for you, because that is unconditional love. holding this version of me or you. We do it for each other, and doing it in a way that's cleanly and not full of advice, which is just based on my experience, not yours. Holding it in a way for you that you can see the bigger version of you and then go out there and be that. I believe that that's the world that we're moving into, even when it doesn't seem kind of on a day-to-day hectic basis, that's what we're living in. So when we give up on time, we allow ourselves access to timing. Timing is actually where we can see. Time is actually something that's already been determined. When we are living in time, we've already determined what we can and can't do within that. And we feel very logical and responsible by planning on time. But really what we're doing is we're agreeing to do something by a limitation that's already been pre-decided. So I use time, I'm like, okay, well, today I have meetings just back to back. So I'm using time, and I'm allowing time to use me if that meetings back to back contains lack. If the meetings back to back contains, that's just the way my schedule is, and I create my world, then I have no relationship to it. And then what I can do is I can see the timing, because the space that opens up from me not having lack about the fact that I have meetings back to back and I'm traveling tomorrow, the space that comes in allows the wonder and the miracles of life to come in. And so timing is still present, even though I'm in time, because I'm not locked in time, because it's not controlling me. So we can see this in a relationship. And this is what's fascinating. And this is where timing kind of becomes, it's a seeing in the present moment, but it's also applying sort of a linear nature to it and deriving things from it. So in a relationship, one person gets into an idea and they start creating. And then they ask the other person, I'm talking about, a romantic relationship, an intimate relationship. They say, okay, well, are you on board with this? Or can we create this together? Or this is something I want to do. Well, then the other sort of brings in their thoughts on it, and they jump on board or they don't. And then maybe they're running in parallel for a little while, and then one person kind of falls off. Well, instead of looking at the circumstances of that, what you could do is you could look at, okay, there's something within the timing. They fell off on the idea. Do they normally fall off on ideas? Because is that just kind of a habitual process for them? Or have they fallen off by bringing in a new idea? And is that new idea truly what they want? Or is it that they're kind of trying to slow down the train on the timing or speed up the train on the timing? In other words, it's a way of being where you've sort of gone 20 rows back in the movie theater and you've said, is there something to derive from this? When I do this, what it forces me to do is it forces me to let go of the specifics of, is this what I want? Is this not what I want? It forces me to get out of judgment. Well, my idea was better than their idea, or vice versa. It forces me to leave all the previous stories and patterns behind, because then what becomes important is my ability to see. And I'm more interested and curious about my current present moment ability to see than I am about being right about it or bringing in my stories about it, right? So it causes me to live at an elevated level. What it also does is it takes me into, really, the circumstances don't matter. The circumstances they're just meaningless logistics to a certain degree, especially as far as this conversation about my own curiosity of the timing, as far as that's concerned. I like that I can, during these conversations of timing, what I get to do is I get to see my own state of allowing, because everything is available to us: money, relationships, love, health, everything. It's just 1 inch away, but it's like we're living in this glass bubble whereby it is all away from us. The gap is all dependent on our state of allowing. And I don't really get on board as much with this whole nervous system regulation thing, because to a certain degree, I think that we have a high state of tolerance for our energetic well-being and all that. I tend to take care of myself well-being wise at a very high level, with also not being in it as well, with not being accommodating to it, if you will. And I can probably go a little bit deeper into that if you guys have questions on that. But I want to sort of stay on track with the studying of my current state of being from a perspective of what is my state of allowing rather than the circumstances is kind of what I want to, for maybe you to see something in. And also that when you do this and you can then clearly see the old money paradigm because you're not as connected to it. So the old money paradigm, which by the way, already doesn't work for you because you've chosen that you want to be free and you've chosen that you want to go out and give your gifts to the world and call in abundance based on that, be financially rewarded from that. And when you do that, you're also choosing that you came to live in this 3D world, and this 3D world, it involves money. And everything that you do in this 3D world, there is an ease that goes into it when you have money supporting you. Because what money does is it doesn't determine your happiness. Like nothing in the world is responsible for your happiness. In fact, you do choose happiness for the most part. You choose it. Even when you're happy, you simply have to choose to be happy. But what it does do is money gives you optionality. So when you can move out of this sort of some of these broken cliches of the old world, which is money doesn't buy you happiness, because what that does is that's kind of a pardon for you get not doing what you don't want to do. And instead go, well, I'm really working for myself. I'm really working for freedom, which is within me. And optionality to work or not work feels damn free. Like Hode's not going to choose that. And so it doesn't mean that you don't love what you do, but I encourage you to look at freedom from the place of optionality, because that's the number one thing that I did that put me in a position of being very wealthy right now. And it's funny because I was thinking about it this morning. I'm like, people don't realize how wealthy I am, but at the same time, that's almost part of the magic. First of all, I don't care. Secondly, that's part of it because there is a certain resistance when people are fronting their wealth. There is a certain resistance that you feel when you're seeing that person who's sending you photographs from first class. Like, I just flew first class. I just got home 4 days ago. But do I need to mention that? I'm mentioning it now to prove this point. But what I'm saying is that it's not valuable for the frequency that you're connecting with me on for you to know the amount of wealth. What's valuable to you is that you can connect with me as a version of you, as an authentic, like, aspect of you, because my authenticity is mine and your authenticity is yours. But there is an aspect of us here that matches. And the more I allow you to connect with me, because that's our state of allowing, by the way, it's not a pushing out, it's an allowing in. The greater my state of allowing is actually my gift to you. And so I am operating on this frequency whereby I am sharing with you in what I would consider just a way that's just kind of coming through. None of this is orchestrated really with what I'm going to say. I have kind of like a little bit of a structure to it just so I can stay on point with you and make it easier for you. But this is coming through in a way that you're energetically pulling this. And that's why I do get messages from you all the time that says, you're in my head, or I've gone back and listened to all of your episodes, or what have you. Whatever you need to do to take from this, see that as your responsibility and increase your state of allowing wherever you feel safe. If it's here, great. But look at your function of safety, and you're creating these little worlds of safety around you, as it then becomes an invite for you to move into it and to increase your greater state of allowing, whether it's a relationship, whether it's money, whatever that's about. And that leads me into another thing, which is investing is a state of safety for you. The old world paradigm has taught you that investing is risky, But what I find interesting is that says no one who is wealthy and uses the market to make money. So that story of investing is risky is not really held. It's not the self-expression of those who are wealthy. I mean, the market has moved up 12%, 11.3% actually, just in the last month. That's 4 weeks. Where else are you going to go out there and make money to the degree of historically for the last 100 years? It's the only vehicle that has constantly gone up. I mean, you could say land, but land is a much higher. Um, it takes a lot more money and investment to get into it. It takes a lot more, I would say, knowledge as well. As far as something that is so accessible to you, I mean, we've been buying a stock that fluctuated. It started at $12 and now it's probably around $19. That pays an 8% dividend. We've been buying that for 3 years. I can't think of anything easier than that. I really can't. So the old world money paradigm, it's not working for you. So you need to stop working for the conditioning and the stories that are putting you back in the old world paradigm. You've chosen to live in the new world paradigm. It's just you're not the self-expression of it yet. And investing is not optional for you, by the way, anymore. In the new world paradigm, you are in what is with your cost of living is to the point where it might even be matching your income. You might have a more income than that, but whatever, your cost of living is much higher than it was before. And if you have children and you talk about childcare costs and you talk about all the summer sports and then you talk about vacationing and it's a lot more. And that's fine. You can roll with it because the thing is, money isn't determined by an amount. Money is determined by flow. You're better off having money in flow than you are have it stagnant. And that's one of the reasons that savings does not work anymore. By the way, the new world paradigm is all about energy. Money is energy. Can you see how saving the old way, which your parents were able to do that, your grandparents maybe, they could buy a house for $150,000 and have one income, and saving worked, right? That's old world. Can you see how when you really look at this all makes sense anyways. You must keep money in flow in the new world paradigm. And if you want to keep money in flow, then you're choosing either it's going to be based on earned income that you're keeping in flow and you're paying other people because you have decided that you need these resources and you buy products from company and that's what supports 70% of the GDP. And the economy wants you to keep doing that. Or you're saying, no, that can be my flow, but that's not going to be all my flow. Investing is now coming into my flow. You are inviting investing in as you are the one who's creating with investing. And you're saying, well, it's not optional anymore because I can't save my way into wealth anymore because of how the economy is now. You're choosing freedom above the amount of money. You're choosing freedom way above money because freedom is you, but you're in what is that money is an aspect of you being free. Nobody feels free when their child gets sick and they can't afford the best healthcare for them. Nobody feels free. And so until you are independent from the economy, and that is what I teach you inside the Spiritual Investor is how to be independent, truly, truly free. And it's how to actually become the self-expression of you and have that also be money without have that icky resistance, then you are no longer willing to. What happens is your standard increases and you're no longer willing to rely on earned income because you are not free when you rely fully on earned income. This is a bit of a newsflash because when the economy shifts and you have to rely on somebody else to make a decision to put food on the table, you're never free. So I don't care what amount of money you have, you're not going to be truly free until you know that this is all a game of musical chairs. And when the music stops, you always have a chair. You always have a chair because you've created it. You're not free based on what someone else is creating for you, which is why it no longer works for you to have your money parked at the this far away. I use my arm to express this far away behind a 1-800 number because that's not your creativity. If you are creating with your own money and then you choose to have someone help you with your money and you are connected to them, that's a whole different story. But you can't really do that until you bring money in. So what part of the design of the process that I have laid out over these last 8 years of teaching this is taking you through that bringing money in energetically first, and why savings is not enough, no matter how disciplined you are. In fact, oversavers are some of the people who are, from what I've seen, in the most fear about money, because savings can, when it goes too far, it's like anything. You can eat too much and it goes too far. When it goes too far, it becomes lack and scarcity. And you can't save your way to freedom anyway. So let's just go ahead and learn a new way. So things for you to look at, let's talk about the market for a moment. The market kind of took a dip over the last few weeks because we had things that came out, a lot of it to do with the conflict that's going on with the war and the things that are going on in the Middle East. One of the things that you can look at that I find interesting is you can look at sort of the S&P versus that would be kind of the SPY ETF if you're going to look it up. Or you can look at SPYD, which is the one that pays dividends. Typically, SPY, which is representative of your growth stocks, is going to actually give you a greater return. But it's actually shifted this year to the one that includes the dividend stocks, which would typically be lower, has been a greater return. So start to look at things like that, because that sort of helps you read between the lines. And what it does is it tells you, it brings your intuition into it, because what it does is it causes you to look and ask questions. Why is that? Is that a permanent shift? When we say permanent, I would say permanent in the market is probably the next year. Or is it something that you kind of just want to look at and you don't really want to make decisions on? Another thing to look at is when the news talks about stocks are down. Of course, tech stocks, they're going to be the ones to go down first, because that's just the way that the market is designed. When they say stocks are down, beware that a lot of times that means that stock is down $10, but it's really up $150 over the last, it could be 6, 12 months, 2 years. But you don't want to be seeing this from the perspective of what the market is telling you. What you want to see in this is, I really want to be reading this from the perspective of being an owner in that stock. What do I need to do to be an owner in that stock, irregardless of what the price is doing? Because what this is telling me is that it's speaking to the frenzied aspects of people's identity, not really speaking to the wealth aspect of people's identity, which is you being an owner. I can't tell you how many stocks that I have that have gone from literally $60 up to $400. I have stocks that have gone up even greater than that. I was just looking at one the other day, $438 up to $1,410. So there are opportunities every single day, every single moment. And I use the word permanent when I talk about the market sometimes, not as an aspect of anything having permanence, because it doesn't. But I really want you to define that for you. I want you to see yourself as a long-term investor, meaning you're just building a fire, and your job once the fire is going is to go out and get more wood. It is not to micromanage your investing account and suddenly when the market goes down, you become a financial trader, because that's what I see happening. You're a long-term investor when the market is solid and boring and steady. But when it goes down, you become a financial trader, which is the worst time to be bringing in knowledge in general, because I don't know that there is any knowledge when the market goes down, but especially not non-tested knowledge. It's fascinating because I was watching an interview the other day with the CEO of Vanguard, who you would think, Vanguard, those are some of the most popular sort of iconic index funds that are out there. And someone said, what would you tell people to do when the market is down 25% and continues to go down? And it was just absolutely brilliant what he said, because it was indicative of who he is deep down and who the self-expression of him is. This is, like I said, advice is cheap, right? But when someone tells you who they are, listen. And he said, Well, how do you know that the market is continuing to go down when it's down 25%? Boom, right? Therein lies our assumptions. Also, he literally chopped that interviewer off at the knees with the, what good is me telling you this right now going to do? I mean, if you look at during the pandemic, the market went down 34%. I remember the day, and everyone who bought on that day is so wealthy now. I mean, if you invested a decent amount, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. So I love that. Also, right on the heels of that, he said, absolutely wouldn't question it. I'd invest more. Okay. So that is coming from a place of positioning. You cannot feel that way if you're not positioned to put more wood on the fire. If you are positioned that you need something, you need to remove wood from that fire, then you are not actually placing yourself in a place of being wealthy. You're actually, what you're doing is you're making your life more difficult. So I'll leave that there. I could go on about that, but I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lead you into the difference between making money and expanding money. And I'm also trying to help you see that there's a lot of rhetoric going on in the market that doesn't apply to you as a wealth builder. Is there AI hype in the market? Sure, maybe. Who knows? No, yes. It's not about being able to say yes or no on that, because that's a garbage answer. What it is it's more about where are you on the spectrum within this game, and for you to see that not playing the game is the only way that you're a guaranteed loser. So for you to be able to see the difference between earned income and expanded income, and hopefully move more, shift more at the end of this episode into, yes, no matter what the amount is I have coming in, I am going to expand money. I'm going to be that version of me. Then what you can also see is that if it requires you to look at money management in order to do that, if it requires you to go in and buy a stock, even when you feel like that's like jumping off a cliff, whatever it requires you to do, what it allows you to do is your connection to I'm an expander of money, which is the source you, because then you're in creation. What it does is it overrides this feeling that you might feel when you sit down to do money management and you feel icky, or you can think of 50 other things that you need to do. It also, when you feel like you're just absolutely going to be put out on the street because you're putting $5,000 into stocks right now and it might not be the right timing, it allows you, when you're in the creation of you're a money expander, it allows you to override that, because you have refused to be in the identity of those that are connected to those stories. Because, by the way, that's a story. The only reason that it bothers you to do money management is because you actually, and get this, you actually can't see you inside of that ickiness feeling money management. That's what you don't like about it. It has nothing to do with money management, or has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with time, or you having time to do it or not having time to do it. It has that you don't feel you. All you feel in those moments is the resistance. And when you see that, you've mastered the game. And when you've mastered the game, you get to go back into it with a greater state of allowing, because that's what it all comes down to. So I'm going to leave you with, it is not your responsibility to make money. It is your responsibility to increase your state of allowing. And the game is not playing the stock market. The stock market is the greatest wealth generating engines we've seen in our history. So stop questioning that. The game is actually, how can you be in money neutrality, which is the greatest opening to money? Obviously, that matches a lot better when your state of allowing is more open. So it's your responsibility to set up and create your world to invite money in, not to make money. Once you see that, you'll automatically feel the ease lifted off of you, because that's what you're here to do. You're here to create worlds. You're not here to get something. Get something requires you to orchestrate, and that's the part that you don't like. All right. So much love to you. Thank you for being here and connecting with me and co-creating this episode. I'll see you on the next one.